Day and night and day, the living creatures give their praise. To him who lives eternally, they never cease from saying, Holy, holy is Yahweh Almighty, worthy, worthy to receive all glory.
Shalom and welcome.
Shalom.
This is Walking in the Word. This is part 2 of our book of Maccabees, first book of Maccabees. We are going to be finishing it up, reading chapters 9 through 16. And this first book is quite long, 60 to 70 verses per chapter, so just bear with us. We will be through it shortly. Chapter 9. Furthermore, when Demetrius heard that Nicanor and his host were slain in battle, he sent Bacchides and Alcimus into the land of Yahudah the second time, and with them the chief strength of his host, who went forth by the way that leads to Gilgal, and pitched their tents before Masaloth, which is in Arabel. And after they had won it, they slew much people. Also the first month of the 152nd year, they encamped before Jerusalem, from whence they removed and went to Beerah, with 20,000 footmen and 2,000 horsemen. Now Yahudah had pitched his tents in Elileh, and 3,000 chosen men with him, who seeing the multitude of the other army, so great were sore afraid. Whereupon many conveyed themselves out of the host, so much so as abode of them no more but 800 men. When Yahudah therefore saw that his host slipped away, and that the battle pressed upon him, he was sore troubled in mind, and much distressed, for that he had no time to gather them together. Nevertheless, unto them that remained he said, Let us arise and go up against our enemies, if perchance we may be able to fight with them. But they dehorted him, saying, We shall never be able. Let us now rather save our lives, and hereafter we will return with our brethren, and fight against them, for we are but few. Then Yahudah said, Far be it that I should do this thing, and flee away from them. If our time has come, let us die manfully for our brethren, and let us not stain our honor. With that, the host of Bacchides removed out of their tents, and stood over against them, their horsemen being divided into 2 troops, and their slingers and archers going before the host, and they that marched in the forward were all mighty men. As for Bacchides, he was in the right wing. So the host drew near on the 2 parts, and sounded their shofars. They also of Yahudah's side, even they sounded their shofars also, so that the earth shook at the noise of the armies, and the battle continued from morning till night. Now when Yahudah perceived that Bacchides and the strength of his army were on the right side, he took with them all the hardy men, who discomfited the right wing, and pursued them unto the mount Ashdod. But when they of the left wing saw that they of the right wing were discomfited, they followed upon Yahudah, and those that were with him hard at the heels from behind. Whereupon they was a sore battle, so much so many were slain on both parts. Yahudah also was killed, and the remnant fled. Then Yochanan and Shimon took Yahudah their brother, and buried him in the sepulchre of his fathers in Modin. Moreover, they bewailed him, and all Yasharel made great lamentation for him, and mourned many days, saying, How is the valiant man fallen that delivered Yasharel? As for the other things concerning Yahudah and his wars and the noble acts which he did, and his greatness, they are not written, for they were very many. Now after the death of Yahudah, the wicked began to put forth their heads in all the coast of Yasharel, and there arose up all such as wrought iniquity. In those days also was there a very great famine, by reason whereof the country revolted and went with them. Then Bacchides chose the wicked men and made them Adanim of the country. And they made inquiry and search for Yahudah's friends and brought them unto Bacchides, who took vengeance on them and used them despitefully. So was there a great affliction in Yasharel, the like whereof was not since the time that a prophet was not seen among them. For this cause all Yahudah's friends came together and said unto Yochanan, Since your brother Yahudah died, we have no man like him to go forth against our enemies and Bacchides and against them of our nation that are adversaries to us. Now therefore we have chosen you this day to be our prince and captain in his stead, that you may fight our battles. Upon this Yochanan took the governance upon him at that time and rose instead of his brother Yahudah. But when Bacchides got knowledge thereof, he sought for to slay him. Then Yochanan and Shimon his brother, and all that were with him, perceiving that, fled into the wilderness of Tekoa, and pitched their tents by the water of a pool Asphar. Which when Bacchides understood, he came near to the Yarden, with all his host upon the Sabbath. Now Yochanan had sent his brother Yochanan, a captain of the people, to pray his friends, the Nabathim, that they might leave with them their carriage, which was much. But the children of Jambri came out of Medeba, and took Yochanan and all that he had, and went their way with it. After this came word to Yochanan and Shimon his brother, that the children of Jambri made a great marriage, and were bringing the bride from Nadabatha with a great train, as being the daughter of one of the great princes of Canaan. Therefore they remembered Yochanan their brother, and went up and hid themselves under the covert of the mountain, where they lifted up their eyes and looked, and beheld there was much ado and great carriage, and the bridegroom came forth, and his friends and brethren, to meet them with drums and instruments of music and many weapons. Then Yochanan and they that were with him rose up against them from the place where they lay in ambush, and made a slaughter of them in such sort as many fell down dead, and the remnant fled into the mountain, and they took all their spoils. Thus was the marriage turned into mourning, and the noise of their melody into lamentation. So when they had avenged fully the blood of their brother, they turned against to the marsh of the Yarden. Now when Bacchides heard thereof, he came on the Sabbath unto the banks of the Yarden with a great power. Then Yochanan said to his company, Let us go up now and fight for our lives, for it stands not with us today, as in time past. For behold, the battle is before us and behind us, and the water of the Yarden on this side and that side, the marsh likewise, and wood, neither is there place for us to turn aside. Wherefore cry ye now unto heaven, that ye may be delivered from the hand of your enemies. With that they joined together, and Yochanan stretched forth his hand to smite Bacchides, but he turned back from him. Then Yochanan and they that were with him leapt into the Yarden, and swam over unto the other bank. Howbeit the others passed not over the Yarden unto them. So there were slain of Bacchides' side that day about 1,000 men. Afterward returned Bacchides to Jerusalem, and repaired the strong cities of Yahudah, the fort of Jericho, and Yemim, and Beit Horon, and Beit El, and Timnah, Parathani, and Tapukah. These did he strengthen with high walls, with gates, and with bars. and in them he set a garrison, that they might work malice upon Yasharel. He fortified also the city, Beit Surah, and Gazam, and the tower, and put forces in them, and provisions of victuals. Besides, he took the chief's men, sons in the country for hostage, and put them into the tower at Jerusalem to be kept. Moreover, in the 153rd year, in the 2nd month, Alcimus commanded that the wall of the inner court of the sanctuary should be pulled down. He pulled down also the works of the prophets. And as he began to pull down, even at that time was Alcimus plagued, and his enterprises hindered, for his mouth was stopped, and he was taken with a palsy, so that he could no more speak anything, nor give order concerning his house. So Alcimus died at that time with great torment. Now when Bacchides saw that Alcimus was dead, he returned to the king, whereupon the land of Yehuda was in rest 2 years. Then all the wicked men held a council, saying, Behold, Yochanan and his company are at ease, and dwell without care. Now therefore we will bring Bacchides hither, who shall take them all in one night. So they went and consulted with him. Then removed he, and came with a great host, and sent seraphim privily to his adherents in Yehuda, that they should take Yochanan and those that were with him. Howbeit they could not, because their counsel was known unto them. Wherefore they took of the men of the country that were authors of that mischief about 50 persons, and slew them. Afterwards Yochanan and Shimon, and they that were with him, got them away to Beit Betsi, which is in the wilderness, and they repaired the decays thereof, and made it strong. Which thing when Bacchides knew, he gathered together all his host, and sent word to them that were of Yehuda. Then went he and laid siege against Beit Betsi, and they fought against it a long season, and made engines of war. But Yochanan left his brother Shimon in the city, and went forth himself into the country. And with a certain number went he forth. And he smote Adamira, and his brethren, and the children of Parashran in their tent. And when he began to smite them, he came up with his forces. Shimon and his company went out of the city, and burned up the engines of war, and fought against Bacchides, who was discomfited by them, and they afflicted him sore, for his counsel and travail was in vain. Wherefore he was very wroth at the wicked men that gave him counsel to come into the country. Inasmuch as he slew many of them, he purposed to return into his own country. Whereof when Jonathan had knowledge, he sent ambassadors unto him, to the end he should make peace with him, and deliver them the prisoners. Which thing he accepted, and did according to his demands, and swore unto him that he would never do him harm all the days of his life. When therefore he had restored unto him the prisoners that he had taken aforetime out of the land of Yehuda, he returned and went his way into his own land, neither came he anyone into their borders. Thus the sword ceased from Yasharel, but Yochanan dwelt at Michmash, and began to govern the people, and he destroyed the wicked men out of Yasharel.
Chapter 10. In the 160th year, Alexander, the son of Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, went up and took Accho, for the people had received him, by means whereof he reigned there. Now when King Demetrius heard thereof, he gathered together an exceeding great host, and went forth against him to fight. Moreover, Demetrius sent Sepharim unto Jonathan with loving words, so as he magnified him. For said he, Let us first make peace with him before he joined with Alexander against us. Else he will remember all the evils that we have done against him, and against his brethren and his people. Wherefore he gave him authority to gather together a host and to provide weapons, that he might aid him in battle. He commanded also that the hostages that were in the tower should be delivered him. Then came Jonathan to Jerusalem and read the Sepharim in the audience of all the people and of them that were in the tower, who were sore afraid when they heard that the king had given him authority to gather together a host. Whereupon they of the tower delivered their hostages unto Jonathan, and he delivered them unto their parents. This done, Jonathan settled himself in Jerusalem and began to build and repair the city. And he commanded the workmen to build the walls of Mount Zion and about the square stones for fortification, and they did so. Then the strangers that were in the fortresses which Maccabees had built fled away, so much so as every man left his place and went into his own country. Only at Beit Sarah certain of those that had forsaken the Torah and the commandments remained still, for it was their place of refuge. Now when King Alexander had heard what promises Demetrius had sent unto Jonathan, when also it was told him of battles and noble acts which he and his brethren had done, and of the plans that they had endured, he said, Shall we find such another man? Now therefore we will make him our friend and confederate. Upon this he wrote a sepher and sent it unto him according to these words, saying, King Alexander to his brother Jonathan sends greeting. We have heard of you, that you are a man of great power, and meet to be our friend. Wherefore now this day we ordain you to be the high priest of your nation, and to be called the king's friend. And therewithal he sent him a purple robe and a crown of gold, and require you to take our part and keep friendship with us. So in the 7th month of the 160th year, at the feast of Succoth, Jonathan put on the holy robe and gathered together forces and provided much armor. Wherefore when Demetrius heard, he was very sorry and said, What have we done, that Alexander has prevented us in making amity with the Yahudim to strengthen himself? I also will write unto them words of encouragement and promise them dignities and gifts, that I may have their aid. He sent unto them therefore to this effect, King Demetrius unto the people of the Yahudim sends greeting. Whereas ye have kept covenants with us and continued in our friendship, not joining yourself with our enemies, we have heard hereof and are glad. Wherefore now continue ye still to be faithful unto us, and we will well recompense you for the things ye do in our behalf, and will grant you many immunities and give you rewards. And now do I free you, and for your sake I release all the Yahudim from tributes and from the customs of salt and from crown taxes, and from that which appertains unto me to receive for the third part or the seed, and the half of the fruit of the trees, I release it from this day forth, so that they shall not be taken of the land of Yehuda, nor of the 3 governments which are added thereunto out of the country of Shamaron and Galil, from this day forth forevermore. Let Jerusalem also be holy and free, with the borders thereof, both from tents and tributes. And as for the tower which is at Jerusalem, I yield up authority over it, and give the high priest, that he may set in it such men as he shall even of their cattle. Furthermore, I will that all feasts and Shabbats and new moons and solemn days and the 3 days before the feast and the 3 days after the feast shall be all of immunity and freedom for all the Yahudim in my realm. Also, no man shall have authority to meddle with or to molest any of them in any manner. I will further that there be enrolled among the king's forces about 30,000 men of Yahudim, unto whom pay shall be given, as belongs to all the king's forces. And of them some shall be placed in the king's strongholds, of whom also some shall be set over the affairs of the kingdom, which are of trust. And I will that their overseers and governors be of themselves, and that they live after their own torah, even as the king has commanded in the land of Yehudah. And concerning the 3 governments that are added to Yehudah from the country of Shamaron, let them be joined with Yehudah, that they may be reckoned to be under one, nor bound to obey other authority than the high priest. As for Akko and the land pertaining thereto, I give it as a free gift to the sanctuary at Jerusalem for the necessary expenses of the sanctuary. Moreover, I give every year 15,000 shekels of silver out of the king's accounts from the places appertaining, and all the overplus, which the officers paid not in as in former time, from henceforth shall be given toward the works of the temple. And beside this, the 5,000 shekels of silver, which they took from the uses of the temple out of the accounts year by year, even those things shall be released, because they appertain to the priests that minister. And whosoever they be that flee unto the temple at Jerusalem, or be within the liberties thereof, being indebted unto the king or for any other matter, let them be at liberty, and all that they have in my realm. For the building also and repairing of the works of the sanctuary, expenses shall be given of the king's account. Yea, and for the building of the walls of Jerusalem and the fortifying thereof round about, expenses shall be given out of the king's accounts, as also for the building of the walls in Yehudah. Now when Jonathan and the people heard these words, they gave no credit unto them, nor received them, because they remembered the great evil that he had done in Yasharel, for he had afflicted them very sore. But with Alexander they were well pleased, because he was the first that entreated of true peace with them, and they were confederate with him always. Then gathered King Alexander great forces and camped over against Demetrius. And after the 2 kings had joined battle, Demetrius' host fled, but Alexander followed after him and prevailed against them. And he continued the battle very sore until the sun went down. And that day was Demetrius slain. Afterward, Alexander sent ambassadors to Ptolemy, king of Mitzrayim, with a message to this effect: For as much as I am come again to my realm, and am set in the throne of my progenitors, and have gotten the dominion, and overthrown Demetrius, and recovered our country, for after I had joined battle with him, both he and his host was discomfited by us, so that they were sit in the throne of his kingdom. Now therefore let us make a league of amity together, and give me now your daughter to be my woman, and I will be your son-in-law, and will give both you and her as according to your dignity. Then Ptolemy the king gave answer, saying, Happy be the day wherein you did return into the land of your fathers, and sat in the throne of their kingdom. And now will I do to you as you have written. Meet me therefore at Akko, that we may see one another. For I will marry my daughter to you according to your desire. So Ptolemy went out of Mitzrayim with his daughter Cleopatra, and they came into Akko, in the 162nd year, where King Alexander, meeting him, he gave unto him his daughter Cleopatra, and celebrated her marriage to Acho with great glory, as the manner of kings is. Now King Alexander had written unto Jonathan that he should come and meet him, who thereupon went honorably to Acho, where he met the two kings and gave them and their friends silver and gold and many presents, and found favor in their sight. At that time, certain pestilent fellows of Yasharel, men of a wicked life, assembled themselves against him to accuse him, but the king would not hear them. Yea, more than that, the king commanded to take off his garments and clothe him in purple, and they did so. And he made him sit by himself, and said unto his princes, Go with him into the midst of the city, and make proclamation that no man complains against him or any matter, and that no man trouble him for any manner of cause. Now when his accusers saw that he was honored according to the proclamation, and clothed in purple, they fled all away. So the king honored him, and wrote him among his chief friends, and made him an Aleph, and partaker of his dominion. Afterward, Jonathan returned to Jerusalem with peace and gladness. Furthermore, in the 165th year came Demetrius, son of Demetrius, came out of Crete into the land of his fathers, whereof when King Alexander heard tell, he was right sorry, and returned into Antioch. Then Demetrius made Apollonius the governor of Silo-Aram his general, who gathered together a great host and camped in Yavnel, and sent unto Jonathan the high priest, saying, You alone lift up yourself against us, and I am laughed to scorn for your sake, and reproached. And why do you vaunt your power against us in the mountains? Now, therefore, if you trust in your own strength, come down to us into the plain field, and there let us try the matter together. For with me is the power of the cities. Ask and learn who I am, and the rest that take our part, and they shall tell you that your foot is not able to fly in their own land. Wherefore now you shall not be able to abide the horsemen, and so great a power in the plain, where is neither stone, nor flint, nor place to flee to. So when Jonathan heard these words of Apollonius, he was moved in his mind, and choosing 10,000 men, he went out of Jerusalem, where Shimon his brother met him to help him. And he pitched his tents against Yahweh. But they of Yahweh shut him out of the city, because Apollonius had a garrison there. Then Jonathan laid siege unto it, whereupon they of the city let him in for fear. And so Jonathan won Yahweh. Whereof, when Apollonius heard, he took 3,000 horsemen and a great host of footmen, and went to Ashdod as one that journeyed, and therewithal drew him forth into the plain, because he had a great number of horsemen in whom he put his trust. Then Jonathan followed after him to Ashdod, where the armies joined battle. Now Apollonius had left 1,000 horsemen in ambush, and Jonathan knew that there was an ambushment behind him, for they had compassed in his host and cast spears at the people from morning till evening. But the people stood still, as Jonathan had commanded them, and so the enemy's horses were tired. Then brought Shimon forth his host, and set them against the footmen, for the horsemen were spent, who were discomfited by him, and fled. The horsemen also, being scattered in the field, fled to Ashdod, and went into Beit Dagon, their idol's temple, for safety. But Jonathan set fire on Ashdod and the cities round about it, and took their spoils, and the temple of Dagon with them that were fled into it he burned with fire. Thus there were burned and slain with the sword well nigh 8,000 men. And from thence Jonathan removed his host and camped against Ashkelon, where the men of the city came forth and met him with great pomp. After this returned Jonathan and his host unto Jerusalem, having any spoils. Now when King Alexander heard these things, he honored Jonathan yet more, and sent him a buckle of gold, as the use is to be given to such as are the king's blood. He gave him also Ekron, with the borders thereof, in possession.
Chapter 11. And the king of Mitzrayim gathered together a great host, like the sand that lies upon the seashore, and many ships, and went about through deceit to get Alexander's kingdom, and join it to his own. Whereupon he took his journey into Spain in peaceable manner, so as they of the cities opened unto him and met him, for King Alexander had commanded them to do so, because he was his brother-in-law. Now as Ptolemy entered into the cities, he set in every one of them a garrison of soldiers to keep it. And when he came near to Ashdod, they showed him the temple of Dagon that was burnt, and Ashdod and the suburbs thereof that were destroyed, and the bodies that were cast abroad, and them that he had burnt in the battle. For they had made heaps of them by the way where he should pass. Also they told the king whatsoever Jonathan had done, to the intent he might blame him, but the king held his peace. Then Jonathan met the king with great pomp at yhvh, where they saluted one another and lodged. Afterward Jonathan, when he had gone with the king to the river called Euphrates, returned again to Jerusalem. King Ptolemy, therefore, having gotten the dominion of the cities by the sea unto Cilicia, upon the sea coast, imagined wicked counsels against Alexander. Whereupon he sent ambassadors unto King Demetrius, saying, Come, let us make a league betwixt us, and I will give you my daughter whom Alexander has, and you shall reign in your father's kingdom. For I repent that I gave my daughter unto him, for he sought to slay me. Thus did he slander him, because he was desirous of his kingdom. Wherefore he took his daughter from him, and gave her to Demetrius, and forsook Alexander, so that their hatred was openly known. Then Ptolemy entered into Antioch, where he set 2 crowns upon his head, the crown of Asia and of Mitzrayim. In the mean season was King Alexander in Cilicia, because those that dwelt in those parts had revolted from him. But when Alexander heard of this, he came to war against him, whereupon King Ptolemy brought forth his host and met him with a mighty power and put him to fight. So Alexander fled into Arav, there to be defended, but King Ptolemy was exalted. For Zadiel the Aravi took off Alexander's head and sent it unto Ptolemy. King Ptolemy also died the 3rd day after, and they that were in the strongholds were slain one of another. By this means Demetrius reigned in the 167th year. At the same time Jonathan gathered together them that were in Yehudah to take the tower that was in Jerusalem, and he made many engines of war against it. Then came wicked persons who hated their own people, went unto the king, and told him that Jonathan besieged the tower. Whereof when he heard, he was angry, and immediately removing, he came to Akko, and wrote unto Jonathan that he should not lay siege to the tower, but come and speak with him at Akko in great haste. Nevertheless, Jonathan, when he heard this, commanded to besiege it still. And he chose certain of the elders of Yasharel and the priest, and put himself in peril, and took silver and gold and raiment and diverse presents besides, and went to Akko unto the king, where he found favor in his sight. And though certain wicked men of the people had made complaints against him, yet the king entreated him as his predecessors had done before, and promoted him in the sight of all his friends, and confirmed him in the high priesthood, and in all the honors that he had before, and gave him preeminence among his chief friends. Then Jonathan desired the king that he would make Yahudah free from tribute, as also the 3 governments in the country of Shomron. And he promised him 300 talents. So the king consented and wrote seraphim unto Jonathan of all these things after this manner. King Demetrius unto his brother Jonathan and unto the nation of the Yahudim sends greetings. We send you here a copy of the Sefer, which we did write unto our cousin Lathanes concerning you, that ye might see it. King Demetrius unto his father Lathanes sends greetings. We are determined to do good to the people of the Yahudim, who are our friends, and keep covenants with us, because of their good will towards us. Wherefore we have ratified unto them the borders of Yahudah, with the 3 governments of Aphekah and Lod and Ramah, that are added unto Yahudah from the country of Shomron, and all things appertaining unto them, for all such as do sacrifice in Jerusalem, instead of the payments which the king received of them yearly aforetime out of the fruits of the earth and of trees. And as for other things that belong unto us, of the tithes and customs pertaining unto us, as also the salt pits and the crown taxes which are due unto us, we discharge them of them all for their relief, and nothing thereof shall be revoked from this time forth forever. Now therefore see that you make a copy of these things, and let it be delivered unto Yothanan, and set upon the holy mount in a conspicuous place. After this, when King Demetrius saw that the land was quiet before him, and that no resistance was made against him, he sent away all his forces, every one to his own place, except certain bands of strangers, whom he gathered from the isles of the heathen. Wherefore all the forces of his fathers hated him. Moreover, there was one Typhon that had been of Alexander's part afore, who, seeing that all the host murmured against Demetrius, went to Semical and Aravi, that brought up Antiochus, the young son of Alexander, and lay sore upon him to deliver him this young Antiochus, that he might reign in his father's stead. He told him therefore all that Demetrius had done, and how his men of war were at enmity with him, and there he remained a long season. In the meantime, Yothanan sent unto King Demetrius, that he would cast those of the tower out of Jerusalem, and those also in the fortresses, for they fought against Yasharel. So Demetrius sent unto Yothanan, saying, I will not only do this for you and your people, but I will greatly honor you and your nation, if opportunity serve. Now therefore you shall do well, if you send me men to help me, for all my forces are gone from me. Upon this, Yothanan sent him 3,000 strong men unto Antioch, and when they came to the king was very glad of their coming. Howbeit that they were of the city gathered themselves together into the midst of the city, to the number of 120,000 men, and would have slain the king. Wherefore the king fled into the court, but they of the city kept the passages of the city, and began to fight. Then the king called to the Yahudim for help, who came unto him all at once, and dispersing themselves through the city, slew that day in the city to the number of the 100,000. Also they set fire on the city and got many spoils that day and delivered the king. So when they of the city saw that the Yahudim had got the city as they would, their courage was abated. Wherefore they made supplication to the king and cried, saying, Grant us peace, and let the Yahudim cease from assaulting us and the city. With that they cast away their weapons and made peace, and the Yahudim were honored in the sight of the king and in the sight of all that were in his realm. And they returned to Jerusalem, having great spoils. So King Demetrius sat on the throne of his kingdom, and the land was quiet before him. Nevertheless, he dissembled in all that ever he spoke, and estranged himself from Jonathan. Neither rewarded he him according to the benefits which he had received of him, but troubled him very sore. After this returned Typhon, and with him the young child Antiochus, who reigned and was crowned. Then there gathered unto him all the men of war, whom Demetrius had put away, and they fought against Demetrius, who turned his back and fled. Moreover, Tryphon took the elephants and won Antioch. At that time young Antiochus wrote unto Jonathan, saying, I confirm you in the high priesthood, and appoint you ruler over the 4 governments, and to be one of the king's friends. Upon this he sent him golden vessels to be served in, and gave him leave to drink in gold, and to be clothed in purple, and to wear a golden buckle. His brother Shimon also he made captain from the place called the Ladder of Zor, unto the borders of Mitzrayim. Then Yochanan went forth and passed through the cities beyond the water, and all the forces of Aram gathered themselves unto him for to help him. And when he came to Ashkelon, they of the city met him honorably, from whence he went to Gaza, but they of Gaza shut him out. Wherefore he laid siege unto it, and burned the suburbs thereof with fire, and spoiled them. Afterward, when they of Gaza made supplication unto Jonathan, he made peace with them, and took the sons of their chief men for hostages, and sent them to Jerusalem, and passed through the country unto Damascus. Now when Yochanan heard that Demetrius' princes were come to Kadesh, which is in Galilee, with a great power, purposing to remove him out of the country, he went to meet them, and left Shimon his brother in the country. Then Shimon encamped against Beit Sura, and fought against it a long season, and shut it up. But they that desired to have peace with him, which he granted them, and then put them out from hence, and took the city, and set a garrison in it. As for Jonathan and his host, they pitched at the water of Kinneroth, from whence early in the morning they got them to the plain of Chashor. And behold, the host of strangers met them in the plain, who having laid men in ambush for him in the mountains, came themselves over against him. So when they that lay in ambush rose out of their places and joined battle, all that were of Yahuthanon's side fled, so much so as there was not one of them left, except Matithyahu, the son of Avshalom, and Yahuda, the son of Kalphi, the captains of the host. Then Yochanan rent his clothes, and cast earth upon his head, and prayed. Afterwards, turning again to battle, he put them to flight. And so they ran away. Now when his own men that were fled saw this, they turned again unto him, and with him pursued them to Kadesh, and even unto their own tents, and there they camped. So there were slain of the heathen that day about 3,000 men, but Yochanan returned to Jerusalem.
Chapter 12. Now when Jonathan saw that time served him, he chose certain men and sent them to Rome for to confirm and renew the friendship that they had with them. He sent Sepharim also to the Lacedaemonians, and 2 other places for the same purpose. So they went into Rome and entered into the Senate and said, Jonathan, the high priest, and the people of the Yahudim sent us unto you, and to the end ye should renew the friendship which ye had with them, and the league as in former time. For this the Romaim gave them Sepharim unto the governors of every place, that they should bring them into the land of Yehudah peaceably. And this is the copy of the Sepharim which Jonathan wrote to the Lacedaemonians, Jonathan the high priest, and the elders of the nation, and the priest, and the other of the Yahudim, unto the Lacedaemonians, their brethren sent greeting. There were Sepharim sent in times past unto Onyahu, the high priest from Dariavish, who reigned then among you, to signify that ye are our brethren, as the copy here written specifies. At which time Onyahu entreated the ambassador that was sent honorably, and received the Sepharim, wherein their declaration was made of the league and friendship. Therefore we also, albeit we need none of these things, that we have the holy Sepharim of Scripture in our hands to comfort us, have nevertheless attempted to send you unto you for the renewing of brotherhood and friendship, lest we should become strangers unto you altogether. For there is a long time past since ye sent unto us. We therefore at all times without ceasing, both in our feast and other convenient days, do remember you in the sacrifices which we offer, and in our prayers, as reason is, and as it becomes us to think upon our brethren. And we are right glad of your honor. As for ourselves, we have had great troubles and wars on every side, for so much as the kings that are round about us have fought against us. Howbeit we would not be troublesome unto you, nor to others of our confederates and friends in these wars. For we have help from heaven that helps us. So we are delivered from our enemies, and our enemies are brought under foot. For this cause we chose Numenius, the son of Antiochus, and Antipater, the son of Jacon, and sent them unto the Romain to renew the amity that we had with them in the former league. We commanded them also to go unto you, and to salute and to deliver you our Sepharim concerning the renewing of our brotherhood. Wherefore now ye shall do well to give us an answer thereto. And this is a copy of the Sepharim which Oniar sent. Arius, king of the Lacedaemonians, to Onyahu, the high priest, greeting. It is found in writing that the Lacedaemonians and Yahudim are brethren, and that they are of the stock of Abraham. Now therefore, since this is come to our knowledge, ye shall do well to write unto us of your prosperity. We do write back again to you, that your cattle and goods are ours, and ours are yours. We do command therefore our ambassadors to make report unto you on the wise. Now when Jonathan heard that Demetrius's princes were come to fight against him with a greater host than afore, he removed from Jerusalem and met them in the land of Hamath, for he gave them no respite to enter his country. He sent spies also unto their tents, who came again and told them that they were appointed to come upon them in the night season. Wherefore so soon as the sun was down, Jonathan commanded his men to watch and to be in arms, that all the night long they might be ready to fight. Also he sent forth sentinels round about the host. But when the adversaries heard that Jonathan and his men were ready for battle, they feared and trembled in their hearts, and they kindled fires in their camp. Howbeit Jonathan and his company knew it not till the morning, for they saw the lights burning. Then Jonathan pursued after them, but overtook them not, for they were gone over the river Eleutheris. Wherefore Jonathan turned to the Aravim, who were called Zavadim, and smote them, and took their spoils. And removing thence, he came to Damascus, and so passed through all the country. Shimon also went forth and passed through the country into Ashkelon, and the holds there adjoining, from whence he turned aside to Yahuah and won it. For he had heard that they would deliver the hold unto them that took Demetrius's part, wherefore he set a garrison there to keep it. After this came Jonathan home again, and calling the elders of the people together, he consulted with them about building strongholds in Yehudah, and making the walls of Jerusalem higher, and raising a great mount between the tower and the city, for to separate it from the city, that so it might be alone, that men might neither sell nor buy in it. Upon this they came together to build up the city, for as much as part of the wall toward the brook on the east side was fallen down, and they repaired that which was called Haphanatha. Shimon also set up Hadid in Shephelah, and made it strong with gates and bars. Now Tryphon went about to get the kingdom of Asia, and to kill Antiochus the king, that he might set the crown upon his own head. Howbeit he was afraid that Jonathan would not suffer him, and that he would fight against him. Wherefore he sought a way how to take Jonathan, that he might kill him. So he removed and came to Beit San. Then Jonathan went out to meet him with 40,000 men chosen for the battle, and came to Beit San. Now when Tryphon saw Jonathan came with so great a force, he dared not stretch out his hand against him, but received him honorably, and commended him unto all his friends, and gave him gifts, and commanded his men of war to be as obedient with him as to himself. Unto Jonathan also he said, Why have you brought all this people to so great trouble, seeing there is no war betwixt us? Therefore send them now home again, and choose a few men to wait on you, and come with me to Akko, for I will give it to you, and the rest of the strongholds and forces, and all that have any charge. As for me, I will return and depart, for this is the cause of my coming. So Jonathan, believing him, did as he bade him, and sent away his host, who went into the land of Yehudah. And with himself he retained but 3,000 men, of whom he sent 2,000 into Galilee, and 1,000 went with him. Now as soon as Jonathan entered into Akko, they of Akko shut the gates and took him, and all of them that came with him they slew with But when they knew Jonathan, and they that were with him, they encouraged one another, and went close together, prepared to fight. They therefore that followed upon them, perceiving that they were ready to fight for their lives, turned back again. Whereupon they all came into the land of Yehudah peaceably, and there they bewailed Jonathan and them that were with him. and they were sore afraid. Wherefore all Yasharel made great lamentation. Then all the heathen that were round about then sought to destroy them. For said they have no captain, nor any to help them. Now therefore let us make war upon them, and take away their memorial from among men.
Chapter 13. Now when Shimon heard that Typhon had gathered together a great host to invade the land of Yehudah and destroy it, and saw that the people were in great trembling and fear, he went up to Jerusalem and gathered the people together, and gave them exhortation, saying, Ye yourselves know what great things I and my brethren and my father's house have done for the Torah and the sanctuary, the battles also and troubles which we have seen, by reason whereof all my brethren are slain for Yasharel's sake, and I am left alone. Now therefore be it far from me that I should spare my own life in any time of trouble, for I am no better than my brethren. Doubtless I will avenge my nation and the sanctuary and our women and our children, for all the heathen are gathered to destroy us of very malice. Now as soon as the people heard these words, their ruach revived, and they answered with a loud voice, saying, You shall be our leader instead of Yehudah and Yochanan your brother. Fight our battles, and whatsoever you command us, that will we do. So then he gathered together all the men of war, and made haste to finish the walls of Jerusalem, and he fortified it round about. Also he sent Yochanan the son of Avashalom, and with him a great power, to yhvh, who casting out them that were therein remained there in it. So Tryphon removed from Akko with a great power to invade the land of Yehudah, and Yochanan was with him in ward. But Shimon pitched his tents at Hadid, over against the plain. Now when Tryphon knew that Shemaron was risen up instead of his brother Yochanan, and meant to join battle with him, he sent messengers unto him, saying, Whereas we have Yochanan your brother in hold, it is for money that he is owing unto the king's treasure, concerning the business that was committed unto him. Wherefore now send 100 talents of silver and 2 of his sons for hostages, that when he is at liberty he may not revolt from us, and we will let him go. Hereupon Shimon albeit he perceived that they spoke deceitfully unto him, yet sent he the money and the children, lest perchance he should procure to himself great hatred of the people, who might have said, Because I send him not the money and the children, therefore is Yochanan dead. So he sent them the children and the 100 talents. Howbeit Tryphon dissembled, neither would he let Yochanan go. And after this came Tryphon to invade the land and destroy it, going round about by the way that leads unto Adorami. And Shimon and his host marched against him in every place wheresoever he went. Now they that were in the tower sent messengers unto Tryphon, to the end that he should hasten his coming unto them by the wilderness, and send them victuals. Wherefore Tryphon made ready all his horsemen to come that night, but there fell a very great snow, by reason whereof he came not. So he departed and came into the country of Galaad. And when he came near to Bethshechem, he slew Yochanan, who was buried there. Afterward Tryphon returned and went into his own land. Then sent Shimon and took the bones of Yochanan his brother, and buried them in Modin, the city of his fathers. And all Yasharel made great lamentation for him, and bewailed him many days. Shimon also built a monument upon the sepulchre of his father and his brethren, and raised it aloft to the sight, with hewn stone behind and before. Moreover, he set up 7 pyramids, one against another, for his father and his mother and his 4 brethren. And in these he made cunning devices, about the which he set great pillars, and upon the pillars he made all their armor for perpetual memory, and by the armor ships carved, that they might be seen of all that sail on the sea. This is the sepulchre which he made at Modin, and it stands yet until this day. Now Tryphon dealt deceitfully with the young king Antiochus, and slew him. And he reigned in his stead, and crowned himself king of Asia, and brought a great calamity upon the land. Then Shimon built up the strongholds in Yehudah, and fenced them about the high towers, and great walls, and gates, and bars, and laid up victuals therein. Moreover, Shimon chose men and sent to King Demetrius, to the end he should give the land an immunity, because all that Tryphon did was to spoil. Unto whom King Demetrius answered and wrote after his manner, King Demetrius unto Shimon, the high priest, and friend of kings, as also unto the elders and nation of the Yahudim, sends greeting. The golden crown and the scarlet robe, which ye sent unto us, we have received, and we are ready to make a steadfast peace with you, yea, and to write unto our officers, to confirm the immunities which we have granted. And whatsoever covenants we have made with you shall stand, and the strongholds which ye have built shall be your own. As for any oversight or fault committed unto this day, we forgive it, and the crown tax also, which ye owe us. And if there were any other tribute paid in Jerusalem, it shall no more be paid. And look, who are meet among you to be in our court, let them be enrolled, and let there be peace betwixt us. Thus the yoke of the heathen was taken away from Yasharel in the 170th year. Then the people of Yasharel began to write in their instruments and contracts, in the 1st year of Shimon of the high priest, the governor and leader of the Yahudim. In those days Shimon camped against Gaza, and besieged it round about. He made also an engine of war, and set it by the city, and battered a certain tower, and took it. And they that were in the engine leaped into the city, whereupon there was a great uproar in the city, so much so as the people of the city rent their clothes, and climbed upon the walls with their women and children, and cried with a loud voice, beseeching Shimon to grant them peace. And they said, Deal not with us according to our wickedness, but according to your mercies. So Shimon was appeased toward them, and fought no more against them, but put them out of the city, and cleansed the houses wherein the idols were, and so entered into it with songs and thanksgiving. Yea, he put all uncleanness out of it, and placed such men there as would guard the Torah, and made it stronger than it was before, and built therein a dwelling place for himself. They also of the tower in Jerusalem were kept so strait, that they could neither come forth, nor go into the country, nor buy, nor sell. Wherefore they were in great distress for want of victuals, and a great number of them perished through famine. Then cried they to Shimon, beseeching him to be at one with them, which thing he granted them. And when he had put them out from thence, he cleansed the tower from pollutions, and entered into the 23rd day of the 2nd month in the 171st year, with thanksgiving and branches of palm trees, and with harps and cymbals, and with viols and hymns and songs, because there was destroyed a great enemy out of Yasharel. He ordained also that that day should be kept every year with gladness. Moreover, the hill of the temple that was by the tower he made stronger than it was, and there he dwelt himself with his company. And when Shimon saw that Yochanan his son was a valiant man, he made him captain of all the host, and he dwelt in Gazam.
Chapter 14. Now in the 163 year, King Demetrius gathered his forces together and went into Madai to get him help to fight against Tryphon. But when Arsaces, the king of Persia and Madai, heard that Demetrius was entered within his borders, he sent one of his princes to take him alive, who went and smote the host of Demetrius and took him and brought him to Arsaces, by whom he was put in ward. As for the land of Yehudah, that was quiet all the days of Shimon, for he sought the good of his nation in such wise as that everyone, evermore, his authority and honor pleased them well. And as he was honorable in all his acts, so in this, that he took yhvh for a haven and made an entrance to the isles of the sea, and enlarged the bounds of his nation and recovered the country, and gathered together a great number of captives, and had the dominion of Gazam and Beit Sarah, and the tower, out of which he took all uncleanness, neither was there any that resisted him. Then did they till their ground in peace, and the earth gave her increase, and the trees of the field their fruit. The ancient men sat at all in the streets, communing together of good things. And the young men put on glorious and warlike apparel. He provided victuals for the cities and set them all manner of munition, so that his honorable name was renowned unto the end of the world. He made peace in the land, and Yasharel rejoiced with great joy. For every man sat under his vine and his fig tree, and there was none to fray them. Neither was there any left in the land to fight against them. Yea, the kings themselves were overthrown in those days. Moreover, he strengthened all those of his people that were brought low. The Torah he searched out, and every contemner of the Torah and wicked person he took away. He beautified the sanctuary and multiplied vessels of the temple. Now when it was heard at Rome and as far as Sparta that Jonathan was dead, they were very sorry. But as soon as they heard that his brother Shimon was made high priest in the stead and ruled the country and the cities therein, they wrote unto him in tables of brass to renew the friendship and league which they had made with Yehudah and Jonathan his brethren, which writings were read before the assembly at Jerusalem. And this is the copy of the Sepharim that the Lacedaemonians sent, the rulers of the Lacedaemonians, with the city unto Shimon, the high priest, and the elders and priests and remnant of the people of the Yahudim, our brethren, send greeting. The ambassadors that were sent unto other peoples certified us of your glory and honor, wherefore we were glad of their coming, and did register the things that they spoke in the council of the people in this manner. Numenius, son of Antiochus, and Antipater, son of Jacon, and Yahudim's ambassadors came unto us to renew the friendship they had with us. And it pleased the people to entertain the men honorably, and to put the copy of their ambassage in public records, to the end the people of the Lacedaemonians might have a memorial thereof. Furthermore, we have written a copy thereof unto Shimon the high priest. After this, Shimon sent Nemunius to Rome with a great shield of gold of 1,000 pound weight to conform the league with them. Wherefore, when the people heard, they said, what thanks shall we give to Shimon and his sons? For he and his brethren and the house of his father have established Yasharel and chased away in fight their enemies from them. and confirmed their liberty. So then they wrote it in the tables of brass, which they set upon pillars in Mount Zion. And this is a copy of the writing. The 18th day of the month Elul, in the 100 year, being the 3rd year of Shimon the high priest, at Saramel, in the great assembly of the priests and people and rulers of the nation and elders of the country, were these things notified unto us. For as much as oftentimes there have been wars in the country, wherein for the maintenance of their sanctuary, and the Torah Shimon, the son of Mattatyahu, of the prosperity of yhvh, together with his brethren, put themselves in jeopardy, and resisting the enemies of their nation, did their nation great honor. For after that, Jonathan, having gathered his nation together and been their high priest, was added to his people. Their enemies prepared to invade their country, that they might destroy it and lay hands on the sanctuary. At which time Shimon rose up and fought for his nation, and spent much of his own substance, and armed the valiant men of his nation, and gave them wages, and fortified the city of Yehudah, together with Beit Surah, that lies upon the borders of Yehudah, where the armor of the enemies had been before, but he set a garrison of Yahudim there. Moreover, he fortified Yapho, which lies upon the sea, and Gazam, that borders upon Ashdod, where the enemies had dwelt before. But he placed Yahudim there, and furnished them with all things convenient for the reparation thereof. The people therefore sang the acts of Shimon, and unto what glory he thought to bring his nation, made him their governor and chief priest, because he had done all these things, and for the justice and faith which he kept to his nation, and for that he sought by all means to exalt his people. For in this time things prospered in his hands, so that the heathen were taken out of their country, and they also that were in the city of David in Jerusalem, who had made themselves a tower, out of which they issued and polluted all about the sanctuary, and did much hurt in the holy place. But he placed Yahudim therein, and fortified it for the safety of the country and the city, and raised up the walls of Jerusalem. King Demetrius also confirmed him in the high priesthood according to those things, and made him one of his friends, and honored him with great honor. For he had heard saying that the Romaim had called the Yahudim their friends and confederates and brethrens, and that they had entertained the ambassadors of Shimon honorably. Also that the Yahudim and priests were well pleased that Shimon should be their governor and high priest forever, until there should arise a faithful prophet. Moreover, that he should be their captain, and should take charge of the sanctuary, to set them over their works, and over the country, and over the armor, and over the fortresses, that I say he should take charge of the sanctuary. Beside this, that he should be obeyed of every man, and that all writings in the country should be made in his name, and that he should be clothed in purple and wear gold. Also that it should be lawful for none of the people or priests to break any of these things, or to gainsay his words, or to gather an assembly in the country without him, or to be clothed in purple, or wear a buckle of gold. And whosoever should do otherwise, or break any of these things, he should be punished. Thus it liked all the people to deal with Shimon, and to do as has been said. Then Shimon accepted hereof, and was well pleased to be high priest, and captain, and governor of the Yahudim, and priest, and to defend them all. So they commanded that this writing should be put in tables of brass, and that they should be set up within the compass of the sanctuary in the conspicuous place, and that the copies thereof should be laid up in the treasury to the end that Shimon and his sons might have them.
Chapter 15. Moreover, Antiochus, son of Demetrius, the king, sent seraphim from the isles of the sea unto Shimon, the priest and prince of the Yahudim, and to all the people. The contents whereof were these: King Antiochus to Shimon, the high priest and prince of his nation, and to the people of the Yahudim, greeting. For as much as certain pestilent men have usurped the kingdom of our fathers, and my purpose is to challenge it again, that I may restore it to the old estate, and to that end have gathered a multitude of foreign soldiers together, and prepared ships of war. My meaning also being to go through the country, that I may be avenged of them that have destroyed it, and made many cities in the kingdom desolate. Now therefore I confirm unto you all the oblations which the kings before me granted you, and whatsoever gifts besides they granted. I give you leave also to coin money for your country with your own stamp. And as concerning Jerusalem and the sanctuary, let them be free, and all the armor that you have made, and fortresses that you have built, and keep in your hands, let them remain unto you. And if anything be or shall be owing to the king, let it be forgiven you from this time forth forevermore. Furthermore, when we have obtained our kingdom, we will honor you and your nation, and your temple with great honor, so that your honor shall be known throughout the world. In the 114th year, when Antiochus into the land of his fathers, at which time all the forces came together unto him, so that few were left with Tryphon. Wherefore, being pursued by King Antiochus, he fled unto Dora, which lies by the seaside. For he saw that troubles came upon him all at once, and that his forces had forsaken him. Then camped Antiochus against Dora, having with him 120,000 men of war, and 8,000 horsemen. And when he had compassed the city round about, and joined ships close to the town on the seaside, he vexed the city by land and by sea, neither suffered he any to go out or in. In the mean season came Numius and his company from Rome, having seraphim to the kings and countries, wherein were written these things: Lucius, consul of the Romine, unto King Ptolemy, greeting. The Yahudim's ambassadors, our friends and confederates, came unto us to renew the old friendship and league, being sent from Shimon, the high priest, and from the people of the Yahudim. And they brought a shield of gold of 1,000 pounds. We thought it good, therefore, to write unto the kings and countries, that they should do them no harm, nor fight against them, their cities or countries, nor yet aid their enemies against them. It seemed also good to us to receive the shield of them. If therefore there be any pestilent fellows that have fled from their country unto you, deliver them unto Shimon the high priest, that he may punish them according to their own Torah. The same thing wrote he likewise unto Demetrius the king, and Attalus, and Ararathes, and Arsakes, and to all the countries, and to Samphanes, and the Lacedaemonians, and to Delos, and Sion, and Sarai, and Samos, and Pamphila, and Lacia, and Halcarnias, and Roas, and Aradus, and Cos, and Side, and Aradus, and Gortnia, and Sidius, and Cyprus, and Cyrene. And the copy thereof he wrote to Shimon the high priest. So Antiochus the king camped against Dora the second day, assaulting it continually, and making engines, by which means he shut up Typhon, that he could neither go out nor in. At that time Shimron sent him 2,000 chosen men to aid him, silver also, and gold, and much armor. Nevertheless, he would not receive them, but broke all the covenants which he had made unto him afore, and became strange unto him. Furthermore, he sent unto him Athenobius, one of his friends, to commune with him, and say, Ye withhold Yahvh and Gazam, with the tower that is in Jerusalem, which are cities of my realm. The borders thereof ye have wasted, and done great hurt in the land, and got the dominion of many places within my kingdom. Now therefore deliver the cities which ye have taken, and the tributes of the places, whereof ye have gotten dominion without the borders of Yehuda. Or else give me for them 500 talents of silver, and for the harm that ye have done, and the tributes of the cities, other 500 talents. If not, we will come and fight against you. So Athenebus, the king's friend, came to Jerusalem, and when he saw the glory of Shimon, and the cupboard of gold and silver plate, and his great attendants, he was astonished, and told him the king's message. Then answered Shimon, and said unto him, We have neither taken other men's land, nor held that which appertains to others, but the inheritance of our fathers, which our enemies had wrongfully in possession a certain time. Wherefore we, having opportunity, hold the inheritance of our fathers. And whereas you demand Yahvh and Gazam, albeit they did great harm unto the people in our country, yet will we give you 100 talents for them? Hereunto Athenobius answered him not a word, but returned in a rage to the king, and made report unto him of these speeches, and of the glory of Shimon, and of all that he had seen, whereupon the king was exceedingly wroth. In the meantime fled Tryphon by ship unto Orthisayahu. Then the king made Syndibius captain of the seacoast, and gave him a host of footmen and horsemen, and commanded him to remove his host toward Yehuda. Also he commanded him to build up Kidron, and to fortify the gates, and to war against the people. But as for the king himself, he pursued Tryphon. So Syndibius came to Yavanel, and began to provoke the people, and to invade Yehuda, and to take the people prisoners, and slay them. And when he had built up Sidru, he set horsemen there, and a host of footmen, to the end that issuing out they might make outroads upon the ways of Yehuda, as the king had commanded him.
Chapter 16. Then came up Yochanan from Gazam, and told Shimon his father what Syndibius had done. Wherefore Shimon called his 2 eldest sons, Yehuda and Yochanan, and said unto them, I and my brethren and my father's house have ever from youth unto this day fought against the enemies of Yasharel, and things have prospered so well in our hands that we have delivered Yasharel oftentimes. But now I am old, and ye, by Elohim's mercy, are of a sufficient age. Be ye instead of me and my brother, and go and fight for our nation, and help from heaven be with you. So he chose out of the country 20,000 men of war with horsemen, who went out against Cindabeus, and rested that night at Modin. And when as they rose in the morning and went into the plain, behold, a mighty great host, both of footmen and horsemen, came against them. Howbeit there was a water brook betwixt them. So he and his people pitched over against them. And when he saw that the people were afraid to go over the water brook, he went first over himself, and then the men, seeing him, passed through after him. That done, he divided his men and set the horsemen in the midst of the footmen, for the enemy's horsemen were very many. Then sounded they with the holy shofars, whereupon Cindabeus and his host were put to flight, so that many of them were slain, and the remnant got them to the stronghold. At that time was Yehuda, Jochanan's brother, wounded, but Jochanan still followed after them until he came to Kidron, which Cindabeus had built. So they fled even unto the towers in the fields of Ashdod, wherefore he had burned it with fire, so that there were slain of them. Afterward he returned into the land of Yehuda in peace. Moreover, in the plain of Jericho was Ptolemy, the son of Abobus, made captain, and he had abundance of silver and gold, for he was the high priest's son-in-law. Wherefore his heart being lifted up, he thought to get the country to himself, and thereupon consulted deceitfully against Shimon and his sons to destroy them. Now Shimon was visiting the cities that were in the country, and taking care for the good ordering of them, at which time he came down himself to Jericho with his sons Mattatyahu and Yahuda in the 117th year, in the 11th month, called Shebat, where the sons of Abubus, receiving them deceitfully into a little hold called Dock, which he had built, made them a great banquet. Howbeit he had hid men there. So when Shimon and his son had drunk largely, Ptolemy and his men rose up and took their weapons and came upon Shimon into the banqueting place, and slew him and his 2 sons and certain of his servants, in which doing he committed a great treachery and recompensed evil for good. Then Ptolemy wrote these things and sent to the king, that he should send him a host to aid him, and he would deliver him the country and cities. He sent others also to Gazam to kill Jochanan, and unto the tribunes he sent Sepharim to come unto him, that he might give them silver and gold in rewards. And others he sent to take Jerusalem and the mountain of the temple. Now one had run afore to Gazam, and told Jochanan that his father and brethren were slain, and uttered, he, Ptolemy, has sent to slay you also. Hereof when he heard, he was sore astonished. So he laid hands on them that were come to destroy him, and slew them, for he knew that they sought to kill him. As concerning the rest of the acts of Jochanan, and his wars and worthy deeds which he did, and the building of the walls which he made, and his doings, behold, these are written in the chronicles of his priesthood, from the time he was made priest after his father.
And that concludes the first book of Maccabees. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you stick with us next time as we begin the second book.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Day and night and day, the living creatures give their praise to him who